Hi guys, Tucker here with a new video, and this video will be a Shadow Priest Solo Shuffle PvP match video. And you saw my talent build really quickly, so you had to probably pause the video. But again, the explanation is pretty much we are doing a lot of instant damage, but also a lot of casted damage with Mind Spike Insanity, which is not always the most fun thing to do versus a caster lobby, because whenever you're locked out, you're really locked out for a long time, and you yourself, you only have a silence for 45 seconds. But this lobby was particularly interesting because, again, unfortunately, I'm going to say that the Elemental Shaman was not really the best one here. So obviously the match is a bit one-sided, a bit complicated to play with the Elemental Shaman. But overall, I think I can showcase a bit the damage that it can do as a Shadow Priest, which normally in those kinds of lobbies, you would not expect Shadow Priest being top damage. Again, the build will be in the description, so if you want to check that out, you can always check that out. But you see, I utilize my self-heals because I feel like this game will be a long game anyways, because we are playing versus a mistweaver, but also a resto druid, and the CC that will be used are probably going to be used on the DPS, because again, it's very hard to reach a mistweaver from afar. You don't want to play next to all these people. Again, we try to push in because again, you want to be around the pillars, but also try to maybe seek out a fear, because again, if the mistweaver actually is obligated to use a revival, for example, which is going to dispel everything on their team, it is huge. This here, for example, Cocoon is used, and we have a polymorph on the healer. I try to vampiric touch the healer anyways because he is in polymorph for 2 seconds. It doesn't really matter how long it is, because the kill target is going to be the Boomy or the Elemental Shaman. But we don't have the setup yet. He doesn't have the damage, I don't have the damage, so we try to push in, we do stun on the mistweaver, and overall, what I can describe is, with the 4-piece, again, we are going to make a guide very soon. Again, I'm trying a lot of stuff, a lot of builds, to be sure about the build I really want to showcase on my PvP guide video, but this one is really talking about death speakers pretty much, but also the 4-set, which is, in my opinion, a must-have as a Shadow Priest, which completely changes the playstyle, where you prefer to be the target with Catharsis, and the 4-piece with the Shadow Word Pain, you can actually dish out like 200k minimum damage if you actually have the stacks for it. And it could be even more if you're lucky with a crit, or if you're lucky with the amount of stacks you can have within the match. Again, it's easier to have it whenever you have Death Speakers on, but again, we have PI, we have all the tools available. And I think in general, we land up a important kill. And you see the damage proportions that we're doing. Devour playing doing 86k, Shadow Word Pain doing in 96k. We have Catharsis 100k, for example. Death, also a lot of damage. Insanity doing 130k normal hit. Again, this is like on the lower end. I already hit it around 150k normal hit Insanities. But also, I did a crit of around 200k in a PvP match, which is, again, a lot of damage for a Shadow Priest. You would think that it is dot-based damage, but it is truly not. If you are playing a Shadow Priest, you should keep it out of your mind that Vampiric Touch does anything for you. It's just purely a builder for you. Doesn't do that much damage. If it gets dispelled, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you try to reapply it. But this alone, if they dispel it or not, is not going to make you lose a lot of damage. It will lose you a lot of insanity build up, but also the extra damage you get from having 3 dots up with the Devouring Plague. Like, for example, a Dark Ascension with our Void Torrent is going to result on a lot of CDs or Dispel used in that match. Unfortunately, the Elemental Shaman, like I said at the start of the video, doesn't do too much damage, doesn't do too much things. I don't know what he did, I don't know, because he was geared. No, he wasn't geared, I think he was like full green, so it could explain how little he did. But in general, it felt like, again, it was the worst player in the lobby, and unfortunately, Shadow Priest, they kind of need a DPS to land kills. You cannot land kills solo, except if you're not the target, and you can actually dish out a huge amount of damage with Void Torrent, with your Mind Games, and maybe a Shadow Word Pain with a fully stacked Catharsis with a fully stacked 4-set. You could actually do a lot of damage, but again, those situations doesn't happen that often. It's way easier versus melees whenever they're targeting you. But again, I think it might be a hot take, but I do prefer to play versus melees with 2 competent healers. But 2 melees, I found it very easy to deal with the damage, with my own damage, with Shadow or Pain and Catharsis. And at one point in the match, they actually understand that my damage comes from Catharsis as well, and they switch out completely and they go for the second melee. But little do they know that whenever I am free, it becomes like very easy for me to do whatever I want in the match. But again, like here I could have done a dispersion. I felt like I got one-shotted, but I probably not. I felt like a bit cheated out whenever I saw the damage from the Elemental Shaman being 2.7 million. I have 6.6 million, and there is no like real like damage on I would say pets, because there were no pets basically. So it was like very terrible. I was watching the healing. I was also a bit discussed with that the resto druid went for a cyclone instead of like trying to heal me. But again, after watching the video and watching my gameplay, I do feel like I was one-shotted, so I don't know if he could have done anything else except maybe like preventing the damage by over-healing me, which again could happen. That still I would die even without a cyclone. But overall, I said, look, I will try to multi-dot everything and go for whatever is optional for me. The balance druid is kind of waiting for an opportunity to go for. I wait out the primordial wave. I see the primordial wave. I just wait it out, and now I go back in and I try to do a Psyphene on the elemental shaman. I got stunned. I just trinketed because I feel like nobody can stop it anyways. And then we do try to damage, and we do put a Shadow or Pain on everyone. Maybe I should have done on the mage as well, but I felt like there was an opportunity with the elemental shaman. I did stun the resto druid and then a paralysis to land the kill. Again, a lot of damage. You see Shadow Pain 70k with this Catharsis together. It is a lot of damage. You could like compare it with a Moro Strike from an Arms Warrior that is fully stacked with Avatar and Colossus Smash, for example. I was watching the gear from the Elemental Shaman, and I understand pretty quickly that he is not going to be the type that is going to win the games for us. Again, we're trying to cheat out a game, try to cheese out a game, and try to steal out a game by winning with the Elemental Shaman. I felt like this round particularly was not the best round I've played in general. I felt like I could have done better, but I feel like, again, you will see it will be a dampening round where like both healers are going to be and it will just depend on the actual damage you can produce to win out the match. But I think with all things considered, since I'm still learning Shadow Priest and trying to seek out ways to teach it to other people, because I do love the spec right now. I think I'm having a hot take right now by saying that Shadow Priest is actually very fun to play. I did fade it, but for some reason it actually touched me or whatever, and try to like, if you can actually go past the thing that is Shadow Priest, and Shadow Priest actually dealing damage with dots, which is not the case, you can actually have a lot of fun. Yes, you have to cast a lot of damage, but I think Mind Spike and Insanity does a lot of damage. Devouring Plague, if you are builded correctly, does a lot of damage. Mind Games actually can hit for a lot, and it can crit for even more if you're like going for a full go, for example. And you can play human like me, and you can have like double trinket. Like right now I don't play double trinket because I feel like there is a lot of things that could stop me, for example Cyclone. So why would I play like the badge trinket where I probably need like the normal trinket to land kills? But you see, I try to line of sight a few spells. It's very difficult because I need to cast it myself, and I feel like, again, I have to carry the game. Elemental Shaman is not going to do it for me. And I tried to do damage. I got stunned, trinketed directly. I tried to do my Death Speakers right now. Unfortunately, I don't have the damage to land a blow here. But in general, you see, it's very difficult to play versus casters because casters are lining constantly your dots or your casted abilities, which is not always easy. It's way easier to play like this if you're playing like an Elemental Shaman where you don't need to cast a lot. Unfortunately, you do need to cast those Mind Spike Insanities, your Void Torrents, your damage in general, which again, it's very hard if people are lining like all the time, while for example a warrior is not going to line every single thing. Again, warriors are probably the most annoying thing to play against as a Shadow Priest. I prefer to play with a DK than with a warrior, for example. This warrior has like reflect, they have stuns, they have fizz, they have pummel, of course. But not only that, it just feels like you cannot fear them away as well if they're on you, because they can just berserker rage. So you have a lot of stuff that is not that great versus a warrior, but versus DK it feels a bit better, because Lichborn is something, but it's not like a very long city. It's a very long city compared to fear, while berserker rage, often or not, it will be up every time you're going to fear them, obviously. You see, as a versus casters, you see the mana for my monk, it's going to be very rough. I don't have any CDs. I have dispersion very soon. I don't know if I'm hitting it. I hate him, but again, I think the elemental shaman will be blown up very quickly. We fear them both, and then we try to reapply dots. We try to do damage. We swap the HP. Unfortunately, it is not enough. The elemental shaman is going to get destroyed right there, while he has astral shift and grounding totem up. It is what it is at the end of the day. He burrowed. Unfortunately, it's a good decision, but I think it would be better if he grounded and astral shifted and then burrow, so he would have everything combined. And then I see the damage difference. I have as many vampiric touches casted than he has lava burst, so it feels a bit wrong. It is what it is. I was looking 23 casted lava bursts, while I have 20 casted vampiric touch. So you see that it's going to be very rough to win, like with the elemental shaman. And now I'm like a bit scared. Like I feel like the elemental shaman is going to steal one, so I have to really go balls deep, like directly, to try to win. You know, some solo shuffle matches where you have the weak link, and then versus you, the weak link is like going Super Saiyan, and he actually does things to destroy you. So again, I try to not waste too much damage and too much time. Unfortunately, the arcane mage is not that bad. I stunned the resto druid. To be honest, after watching back the games, I feel like I should use my sounds way more on the DPS, because again, it feels like silencing the resto druid is complicated because of his placement, but also mine. But here right now, we did a lot of damage on the elemental shaman, and it was like a very easy blow up. I think he didn't astral shift as well, so it was actually a very easy kill. And then I said, look, it's 3 wins. I have to win the 4th one. My MMR is quite low on this Shadow Priest, unfortunately, because we were started out as in Soul Shuffle. In 3s, we got like 16, 18, just one sitting. I think we have 55% win rate whenever I was like Shadow Priest. It was actually very fun, but we need to play more to actually like reach higher plays. Same for Soul Shuffle. I feel like, again, the queue times are kind of bad for me, but it is what it is. I try to Shadow Word Pain everyone because it's very important actually, and then I try to Vampiric Touch. Again, Shadow Word Pain activates your Death Speakers, which again is going to activate damage on your Shadow Word Pain, but I'm going to explain that on my guide whenever I will try to do a guide. We try to blow up the mage, and I see he got a counter spell already used because of my Omnibar, and the elemental shaman was behind the pillar. So you see the damage is really noticing. Void Torrent just won 346k. We did crit 2 times, fortunately, but you do crit a lot whenever you're using your Dark Ascension. Vampiric Touch is also doing a lot of damage. Shadow Word Pain 42k. It wasn't really stacked, but it's still 42k instant damage. Catharsis did 100k, and then we have Mind Games critical hits for 143k. Again, all of this damage is going to be enough, like 73k Devouring Blink, and if you count everything, you're going to do some unhealable damage if your second DPS is actually doing something. And that's the only part where I'd say in Soul Shuffle, Shadow Priest is going to be complicated, because you're very dependent on healers knowing how to heal first and foremost, and not going for CC for no reason, while you are actually the CC machine. Again, if you're playing versus a melee cleave and there is only one healer with a casted abilities, your healer should not really go for a rake or a cyclone at the start of the game, because it will often just punish you in the face. You will have to disperse from the get-go, or even void shift, which is not ideal, and you cannot cast anything. While if the Resto Druid, for example, rakes one of the DPSs, which is infinitely better in Soul Shuffle, by the way, you don't want to rake every time the healer, but again, I explained that on my Resto Druid guide. But I think in general, if you actually help your Shadow Priest, he's going to pop off. The issue with Soul Shuffle is people are playing for their own face most of the time, without even thinking, look, if I help the Shadow Priest being more safe, he will deal more damage, but also deal significant CC on the healer, which often enough is my task as a healer, but now the Shadow Priest can do it for me. So what I need to do is just stabilize this Shadow Priest and try to help my team. And a lot of healers don't know that. Or they hold on CDs. For example, a Bob from Holy Paladin is great for a Shadow Priest. Sometimes you should just spend a CD so the Shadow Priest can actually do his own thing. I think Shadow Priest is like one of the specs. Again, I think at higher rated it is infinitely better because people know how to play, but also they know how to play against, so it's maybe not always true. But I think at lower rated, I can understand why people like dislike Shadow Priest. They need to cost a lot. They get like, again, kicked, micro CC'd through to death without any help from the second DPS or the healer. Again, it's not only the healer's job, it's also the Shadow Priest, but also the second DPS job to actually help the Shadow Priest or the caster, just in general, to cast abilities. But I think it in vacuum is really a good spec. I understand why now I can, since I play Shadow Priest, I do understand why Blizzard wants it to cost more and to deal significant damage, because now you really deal significant damage if you can actually cast. Now the issue is casting, and often than not, if you're not helped, it's very hard to cast. But trust me, if you are playing in threes and you play with a Destruction Warlock or a Demonology Warlock, you have infinite ways to cast abilities, and it feels way more fun. The issue is with Solo Shuffle is you don't really choose your partners, you don't have Discord to coordinate CC, you don't have Discord to coordinate help, and I understand that it can be very frustrating, but it is at the end of the day just player difference, and some specs are more easy to play than others at different ratings. I think about Subtlety Rogue, for example, at lower rating, you get like ruined on CC most of the time. Sometimes you can just win in a shadowy duel, but again, let's be honest, with the damage in the CCs and the defensive that people have these days, if you press buttons, you don't die at the first go. Normally you die at the second go if you press buttons, but you don't get a second go as a Subtlety Rogue if people are stunning or ruining your setup with XYZ from their own spec. So again, you have that, or for example, Outlaw Rogues, Assassination Rogues, they get like countered multiple times. And Shadow Priest, I think, is in the same category where with game knowledge and the people that are playing around you are good, you're going to feel amazing. If the people around you are not playing that well, you're going to feel like the spec is not working. But I think from what I've seen and what I've played a lot of Shadow Priest these days, I'm actually liking the spec. I think it's frustrating to a certain extent. If you know that, look, you don't really need always a vampiric touch on the enemies. Sometimes a Shadow Word Pain is enough because you want to actually start rolling some damage and some like Death Speaker's procs to actually do your damage with Shadow Word Pain and Catharsis. Because again, you see at the end of the day, I did 30% damage with just Shadow Word Pain and Catharsis. And it's not like the dot damage that made 18%. It's really the instant damage that you got from Shadow Pain and Catharsis that are going to do numbers for you. And then you have Devouring Plague and Void Torrent whenever you can, Mind Games whenever you can. And of course, if you get an Insanity proc, try to land one. It will do significant damage if you are going to pair it with a Shadow Word Pain, which is going to pair with a Catharsis. But I'm going to talk about it in the PvP guide. Hopefully, you're going to enjoy that. Hopefully, you're going to learn a lot about that. And again, I will try to make more videos about Shadow Priest because I'm really a fan now. I'm sold. I can understand that some people can be like mad about the current gameplay because they know easier Shadow Priest iterations where you didn't really have to cast a lot. But right now it feels like if you know how to play around, it feels like you can do a lot of damage with no casting. But it needs some preparation, it needs to actually suffer, it needs to bait a lot of spells. But at the end of the day, if you can actually like land a good CC chain and you have a good DPS with you, you can land a kill most likely. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more content about PvP, guides, tier lists, whatever you want. I try to give it to you. So please comment below what you think about the video, what you want to see in the future. Again, I'm open to everything. I'm a multi-class. I do play a lot of specs. I try to know what I'm talking about whenever I'm talking about something. So again, let's try to have a conversation and let's try to have fun in this World of Warcraft PvP retail Dragonflight expansion.